stack kills for thrills. Back to back, black to black. The Moon Man flow with the Moon Man flow. Features armed ready for the Moon Man show. The Ice Age comes with a Moon Man snow. The seas will rise. The flow, call me Moon Man, call me Jim Crow. I'll make you government dead.
Greetings, everyone. It is a certainly welcome return to Rollin Rambles, the podcast where I talk in my car. As you can see, I have some Notorious MOON merch.
You can't trust the mainstream media. Undeniable, they're less reliable than Wikipedia. The dude was a troll and libs took the bait. Now it's gun control in a police state.
If you're not familiar with Moon Man, don't look it up, because I don't want you to know, wink wink. Needless to say, a lot has changed since the last Rollin Rambles I recorded, or at least time has moved on, and my opinions have become more opinionated, as if that's something that I ever needed. So today, I'm going to tackle the topic of, well, what happened to me today? I know, it sounds boring already. You're probably already tired of it. But this could happen to you, probably has happened to you, and you probably freaked out and spent a lot of time on the phone nagging people to make it go away quicker. So I have had more than one discussion on this channel about how you don't own anything, about how true ownership is not what you think it is, and how I think people like Louis Rossman and the Right to Repair movement, they really just don't go remotely far enough, because right to repair, at the end of the day, is really just saying, I want access to parts and manuals. But it doesn't give you right to ownership. See, you might have the right to repair it, but you still have this problem with software being required to operate your devices. Because you have to have this software to run your devices, if you were to take away the licensed not sold license that they give you for the software, guess what? Your device won't work. In fact, I'm fairly certain that if the license to the code in this car I'm driving, even though it's the last simple car ever made, but if that license was pulled, that it would not be a great day for me trying to operate my car. Everything in this car is run by computers, and with electric vehicles being basically highly advanced computer-operated vehicles, instead of your classic internal combustion engine cars, which, even though they use computers at the end of the day, the engine control unit is a far cry from the rolling tablet design that EVs adhere to. The bottom line with your newer cars and your electric vehicles is that you don't own them if you don't own your copy of the software in them, and if you can't control the copy of the software. Because, for example, if we want to get really technical, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or even just copyright law in general, as it is, in my opinion, improperly understood by the judicial system, it makes it so that you cannot, for example, patch a bug in a piece of software that's closed source in your car, even though it's your car and it's your copy. It's your copy because of the first sale doctrine. And I'm sorry if I keep coughing. It's just the humidity makes me run the air conditioner even if I don't need it anymore, and it dries out my throat, so I cough. I'm sorry. If you don't like it, don't leave a comment, because I'll just give you the finger and ban you. So anyway, if you want to be able to fix your fancy pants tablet on wheels, you have to be able to hack the software inside of it. If, for example, here's a real fun one. Let's say you owned a car from a long time ago. I own, one of my vehicles is from like 2013 or so, which makes it about a 13 or 14-year-old car, depending on where the model year stuff falls, because we're kind of near that time. And because it's a 13 or 14-year-old car, things on it are a little loosey-goosey. They're a little off. And because of that, I have to fix things on it more often. Well, the problem is if it had some software that was required to operate the vehicle, and there was a bug, like, say, someone made a mistake and represented the year with 2 digits, or with 32 bits, like the Unix APOC. Well, in the case of the Unix APOC, there is an issue called the year 2038 bug. So, excuse me. It's 2026 as of this recording. And if you were to make a mistake and choose to store the time as the Unix APOC in 32 bits, this could be as simple as a software library you link in that does that storage under the hood. You may not even know about it. The people who made the car may not even directly know about it. But at the end of the day, that bug is there nonetheless. So the year 2038 bug, the problem is that 32 bits can store literally 4 billion values. The problem with storing 4 billion values is that the Unix APOC, I can't remember when, but I think it was in the 60s. It was either the 60s or 1970 or something to that effect. Well, it turns out, like 68 or whatever years later, you've managed to count over 4 billion seconds. So what happens on a system with an unsigned 32-bit integer is it will, at the time of hitting the end of the Unix APOC, plus the highest value 32 bits can represent in seconds, it will roll over and become 0, which means your car will, instead of thinking that you're in the year 2038, suddenly think you're back in the year like 1970. Needless to say, this could be as harmless as your stereo just displaying the wrong date for something, or it could be as harmful as the car being bricked and never working again. This is actually a massive, massive issue in the industry. So what we're dealing with here is the industry is going to have this 2038 problem, and it's going to roll around, and it's going to be potentially worse than Y2K, because Y2K, at least, thank God, people did something to mitigate Y2K. But beyond Y2K, Y2038 stands the chance of nuking every system that's based on the Unix APOC, which is Linux, BSD, all kinds of proprietary Unixes. It's just all of it runs the risk of getting nuked. And it's going to be a bad time. So I'm not looking forward to it. But what I'm worried about is that my car has a bug. It rolls around to 2038. I've had it for 13 years. What's that? Oh, that's 2025. So if you buy a car in 2025 and it has a year 2038 bug, then you end up stuck, because 2038 is 13 years later. You're still driving a car. It's perfectly fine. It's been relatively reliable. Everything is wonderful. And then what happens to you? That's right. It rolls over and you're screwed. So, because of this, the only fix for this problem is to patch the software in some way to make it so that either it's not based on the Unix APOC, or it either has to have a different APOC as the start, which often can mean patching a lot of things, or patching in a translation. There's so much that you might have to do to fix this in already compiled code, right? And so this Y2K for Gen Z, shall we call it, or Gen Alpha, perhaps. I don't know what generation's going to get screwed by it, but it's not a good time. And they're going to have to fix their bricked hardware in 2038 if somebody made an oopsie. And the law says that if they do that, they are potentially committing a federal felony, punishable by, whatever, $150,000 fine, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. There are all these different civil and criminal penalties you could face simply for making it possible to fix a car that hits the Y2038 bug, because Your car's a rolling tablet and not an actual car that doesn't sit there and track years internally and have a bug like that in the first place. Something tells me that my extremely simple ECU does not have a Y2038 bug in it. But your stupid Tesla tablet on wheels probably does. Now, this kind of thing bothers me. And right to repair people, they want access to manuals and parts. But it doesn't give them access to the software. It means that, once again, just like mod chips, oh, everything's in a gray area. Maybe the owner can do the hack to fix the car so it's not a brick. But legally speaking, just because the owner can do it doesn't mean that the people who sell the product or put out the source code or whatever that does the patch can do that. It means that it has to be gotten from a CD torrent site or something where you might have a much higher risk of it coming with some remote access tool that's used to drain your bank accounts. So that's kind of a problem. Of course, hackers will work around it, but I've covered in previous videos, oh, you can hack around this is not a good enough answer. The fact that you can potentially hack it and fix it does not change the fact that you are still on uncertain ground. You're still potentially, at least technically, breaking the law or opening yourself up to the risk of a massive lawsuit. It's not a good answer. It's the kind of answer that's that falls into that groove where it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And that's just not good enough for me. The system has to actually let you do what you need to do to your copy of the software, and let other people tell you how to do it without them going to prison simply for telling you, hey, here's a chunk of code that will patch up that 2038 bug that made your electric vehicle no longer functional. These kinds of things should not be illegal. And it's certainly ground that the original copyright system was never, ever envisioned to cover, because it came out, we're talking constitutional stuff, 1700s. Forget computers, these people didn't even have electricity yet. I believe that any significant advancements in electricity didn't come around until the 1800s, but I could be wrong on that. Feel free to argue autistically in the comments over that one. I've just realized none of this has anything to do with what I actually had happen to me today, but I'm kind of getting there. It is tangential to it. A lot of this is also because I actually physically met Louis Rossman and Steve from Gamers Nexus, and I've already posted about that too, so I won't belabor the point. Moving on to today, and the real meat of what I want to say. Sony has seen fit to basically make it so that physical discs are a thing of the past, and your newest consoles will only do digital delivery. And by extension, that means that you simply won't be able to use your older discs in your newer consoles, since there simply won't be any. But also, Xbox had an outage that caused the use of offline physical discs to also stop working. So a lot of people have learned the hard way that even if you have a physical disc, if the hardware required to use that physical disc still forces you to have a functioning internet connection, at least spontaneously, to the service provider in the background, then at the end of the day, you are renting. You are not an owner, you are a renter. And that disk is worth nothing if the only hardware that can be used to execute the program contents on the disk or to open the data on the disk in whatever way, if you can't open the data, if you cannot manipulate the data on a storage medium in a meaningful way to humans, then the bottom line is that you don't own it. You're a renter. I don't know why this guy has these high beams going on behind me. Please just ignore him and pretend like it's the sun following me, like in Mario 3, if you would like. Let's make him mad so he gets out from behind me. There we go. The sun's gone away, children. Okay. But if you pay money to buy something, the problem is there's a big difference between buying something and actually philosophically owning that something. And that's the problem is, for a very, very long time throughout human history as societies have evolved, if you buy or purchase something, if you perform a transaction in which ownership of something is transferred to you, then logically that meant the purchase, the buying of the thing, meant you also were buying the control of the thing, because that's what buying is. Buying or purchasing means that you obtain control of the thing. If you do not maintain complete control of the thing, then you have not bought the thing. You are renting the thing, or you co-own the thing, which means that you don't own it. You and other people own it, which really is just sort of a special form of rental if you think about it, because now you have to argue amongst you as to how this thing will be dealt with. So anything other than complete ownership of something is simply not buying or purchasing. It is one form or another of lease, or at a minimum a partnership, none of which is ownership. And the problem is people are all about this Sony, Sony's phasing out physical discs. Sony's like, yeah, physical discs are just going to go away. Everything's going to be digital delivery. Everything's going to be online. Everything's going to be tied to an online account, which means we can revoke all of your access to your entire library anytime for any reason, and you have no recourse, blah, blah, blah. But then the Xbox outage that happened made it clear, hey, guess what? Even the stuff that you thought was physical offline media isn't, because the only way to read it isn't offline. You can't put that Xbox game in your PC and play the game. Sorry, bro. What are you going to do about it? So, this is another thing. Amazon, any of the other streaming services, if you purchase or buy a movie, for example, let's say you buy The Sandlot, movie from the 90s, good movie. I've never seen it. Everybody says it's a good movie. There's famous quotes that you've seen memed on the internet from it. If you buy The Sandlot on one of these platforms that will stream your purchase to you, that should be your first sign right there that that's not actually true, then you didn't buy it, you're renting it. Because the problem is, once the company that sold you the thing you bought loses the distribution license, they can no longer distribute the ephemeral copy to you to view. They are no longer legally able to send you another copy so that you can watch it again. But you're also not allowed to save a copy. They send it using Widevine DRM encryption in your browser or through their app, because let's kill the fucking open internet with apps, guys. One way or the other, it comes to you encrypted, and through hardware encryption that has been put in since the late 2000s, I believe, HDCP and the Intel Trusted Execution. There's all this stuff that basically keeps that video, that encrypted video, encrypted all the way up until the point that it gets to the device that's displaying it. And even that device has to say, yeah, I won't let them have the encrypted stream either. I'll just show it to them through the LCD on my front or whatever, and then throw away the information you sent me. So in these ways, you're not able to keep a copy of the thing that you supposedly bought. But if you bought a DVD or you bought a VHS tape, that's not a problem. Now, here's where people are going to get real pissed off. Blu-rays are the same thing as the Xbox situation. Now, you may not know this, but the problem with Blu-ray is that they switched from DVD's content scrambling system to something called AACS, which uses encryption that is on par with the full disk encryption you get in Linux. You're not going to crack the key before the heat death of the universe. So you'll never be able to watch that movie by cracking the key yourself. DVD CSS scrambling was, it uses a weak key that computers back in the Pentium era or Pentium 2 era had basically no hope of brute forcing in a reasonable amount of time. It could take minutes for you just to crack the key to watch the disc every single time you wanted to watch it. But modern computers, basically, they fart and they can decrypt a DVD that they don't have the encryption key for. So brute forcing DVD encryption is a no-brainer to any modern system. It's a joke. Brute forcing Blu-ray is not really possible. So how is it that Blu-ray discs each have their own completely separate encryption keys? And the encryption key is not on the disc. Yet your Blu-ray player can play the Blu-ray. Well, anyone who has tried to play a Blu-ray disc on a PC without using an official licensed Blu-ray player, which really just boils down to Videoland client. If you've tried to play an encrypted Blu-ray, you're using VLC Media Player with these meticulous modifications. You have to stick in, I think, a library for decrypting, and you have to feed that library a massive database of leaked encryption keys, where it's basically a humongous text file that's got like one per disk or one per known title. This is actually the way that Blu-ray players handle Blu-ray discs. So if you have a Blu-ray player and you get a Blu-ray disc that's much newer than the last time your Blu-ray player was allowed to connect to the internet. By the way, you ever wonder why your Blu-ray player needs an internet connection at all? There you go. It downloads the latest list from the manufacturer of the Blu-ray player that includes the latest titles. So when you go out and you buy a Blu-ray movie and you watch that Blu-ray movie on your Blu-ray player, your dedicated hardware device, the only reason you can do that is because that player has a pre-downloaded list of all of the decryption keys for every known Blu-ray encrypted title that you would ever play. I am not joking around. This is seriously how this works. And by extracting that list, that's how unofficial, unlicensed players of Blu-rays manage to get around it. But that means that the contents of the Blu-ray disc, despite being a standard H.264 AVC codec that literally everything used up until recently, YouTube has moved on to VP9, and ultimately AV1 is the thing that most things are moving to now. But AVC, which is also known as H.264, plays on damn near everything that exists. And Blu-ray, basically Blu-ray video format is probably one of the most supported modern resolution formats in existence, if not the most supported. If you ever downloaded a YouTube video back in the day, there was a good chance that it was in AVC format. And in fact, some of them, if you use a YouTube downloader today, are in AVC format even now. So the problem is, you think if you buy a Blu-ray, I have physical media. Physical media will always be playable. I don't have to ask permission. Well, that's not entirely true. Now, if you happen to have a player that also contains the key already for that physical media, then yeah, you're good to go. The player's got the list. You've got the hard, the hard copy that you stick in the player. It becomes standalone. I mean, that's the whole point of the player, is you can play any of the discs it knows about that are encrypted offline. It's fine. Okay, that's great. But what happens if there's a new release? You're screwed. It's not quite as bad as Xbox, because you don't have to be able to contact the internet all the time just to be able to use something that where everything available or everything needed is available offline, and yet for some reason this online service controls your ability to use it. So that's not really a thing. Let's see if I can get this it's gotten so dark. But the point is, while if you can get a player and Blu-ray discs that the player knows about, then yes, technically that combination meets the requirements. The problem is it doesn't actually meet the requirements you think it does. The only reason that it kind of works is because the Blu-ray player's list of keys is held in flash memory or whatever internal to the player, and thus works offline. But they designed it to work offline. Also, newer Blu-ray players do not necessarily have to be designed such that they continue to work offline. It's possible a Blu-ray player or several exist out there today that you can't use offline. I don't know, but it is possible. So this is where I'm going with this. This morning, I woke up and I saw that 2 hours ago, prior to my waking up, on my phone, my camera system had been offline long enough that the camera system app complained that my entire system was offline for too long. And that was 2 hours ago. Usually, if that's still a problem, I'll figure it out pretty quick because the phone's off Wi-Fi, because the internet's not working. Well, sure enough, the phone was off Wi-Fi. Blah, 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 this and that. Nothing wrong with my router, but the modem would give me a private IP. Then once the cable provider provisioned the modem, suddenly I would no longer get an IP at all. Called them. They said, I'm going to replace it. I said, well, I'm sorry. I've had problems with the service for a long time. It drops out almost every day. Not for too long, but it's dropped out every day. And I'm just tired of it. And Brightspeed just ran this damn fiber right in front of my house. Literally, I watched the guy put it on the poles. And they offer up to 8 gigabit symmetric versus your asymmetric, where you give me 1,000 megabit and then 40 megabit upstream, which is terrible for all the Linux ISOs that I seed in my legal torrent client. So it drives me nuts anyway. But the point is, I set up the appointment to get the service put in for the fiber that's symmetric, but they won't come until tomorrow. So, because of that, my choices were set up a technician appointment to fix what I've got now. Well, what's the point if I do get the service tomorrow? Or run off to a store and get the cable modem swapped out for a working one and to go through the setup just so that there will be internet in the house for the next 20 hours until they show up at 8 a.m. tomorrow to give me my fiber. By the way, by the time you see this video, I will probably have the fiber service because I can't upload the damn video without the fiber service. But because the internet was out, that meant none of the computers in the house could access YouTube. I had to fall back on my phone if I wanted access to YouTube at all. YouTube being one of the primary sources of entertainment in the household, that's not great. We could not continue the show that we were using someone else's, someone else pays for an add-on Netflix account thing. I don't know the details, but the bottom line is I don't pay for Netflix, but I have access to it. And so out of sheer convenience, we're watching a show on there. Well, guess what? We couldn't go back to Netflix and watch the show if we wanted to. So all these entertainment avenues are gone. I couldn't download drivers for anything. So certain types of computer work I couldn't do. There's all this stuff that simply can't be done because there's no internet connection. And a few months ago, I made a video challenging people. Put your phone in airplane mode. Put your computer in airplane mode. Unplug your Ethernet jacks. Unplug your cable modem. Disconnect your stuff. See what still works. Everything that still works once you've unplugged everything, once you're off the internet, once everything's offline and you've set yourself up with an outage, that's the only stuff you really truly own. Everything else, in one way or another, is rented. It's someone else's infrastructure, someone else's gatekeeping, and that's basically it. Like, for example, and I chose the camera system I did for reasons, and I accepted the compromise when I got it, But I have a camera system that records locally, but requires the internet for things like control and for remote viewing. I mean, how do you do remote viewing without the internet? Let's just be honest about that one. But, you know, you have to have internet connectivity for most functions to work, but it still does do local control as long as, like, the Wi-Fi is functioning. Not control, but local, like, recording. So anyway, the point is that camera system's dead. And I can't watch a bunch of things on the internet. I can't look things up. I have to use phones to do it because they still have internet. But if I didn't have internet on the phones, I just wouldn't have any internet access at all. I'd be cut off in large part from the outside world. I also don't have email or a lot of other personal things or even business things set up on my phones. So because of that, my computer's my only email access, and I have to go way out of my way to use my phone for that. So there are a lot of things that suddenly become very inconvenient for me when I'm offline, but I was able to go to my massive hoard of stuff. I archive 506 or so YouTube channels, and I have a massive stockpile of videos and audio. I have an enormous music library. I mean, I have so much offline media, I will never live long enough to play all of it from start to finish. And enjoy all of it. I have basically archived myself not just a library, but a pile from which I can randomly select or curate offline. Now, had I not done this, effectively, I would not have access to any form of entertainment tonight. I would not have access to certain media assets or certain YouTube channels. As you probably know if you follow me closely, one of my favorite projects that I've done was the Unsubscribe-a-thon, which admittedly was a little bit lazy the first time I did it. But I'm working on the next Unsubscribe-a-thon, which is going to be infinitely more entertaining. And I need access to clips from several channels so that I can put those clips, and particularly the voice bits, in there and mess with them a bit for the Unsubscribe-a-thon video. I have all of that offline. I do not have to have any access to anything on the internet to be able to grab stuff from any of the channels that I archive, or anything that I've archived outside of the YouTube archive. This is why I pirate everything. I archive everything, even if I pay for it. If it's not DRM free, offline capable, you know, like what GOG does with games, where they're offline installable and work forever, basically. I will pirate a version of something that I pay for that works without, for example, Steam. I actually bought a game and then found out the service I bought the game through only distributed the game as Steam keys. Which pissed me off because then I found out that it was on GOG and I could have just done that. Well, screw me, I guess. I already paid for it. So I ended up installing Steam on a computer, downloading the game, and then getting a Steam auto cracker off GitHub and using that to patch the game so that it worked offline. That is the kind of stuff I will do because I have better have an offline capable copy of a video game or media or whatever that I'm paying for. But even if I'm not paying for it, if I've ever had access to it, I actually do feel quite entitled. I feel entitled to have access to it again. If I've already seen it and it's already in my memory, why should I not have access to it again? Why can't I go look again and see what it was like again, especially if it's online publicly for free? If it's on YouTube, it's fair game, right? But even movies, if I like a movie and I buy it on Amazon, for example, well, if Amazon Prime loses the distribution license, then I haven't bought it. It's gone. I lose it. Or, more sinister, they edit the content of these movies. They add these trigger warning crap things, and they edit out parts that maybe insult people for being fat, for example. They might overdub it or whatever. And in the age of AI, this is only going to become an exponentially worse issue. I want to see what I fucking saw when I was a kid or a younger adult I want to be able to show my kids the highly offensive version of something so that they can understand it and they can become resilient human beings rather than pussified little losers that have to go run and hide because they hear a word that's dirty. This is why I let my children listen to Moon Man when they're in the car with me. But anyway, being offline, I mean, in any capacity, really hammers home the truth that you don't own anything unless you go out of your way to make sure you do own that thing. If you can lose access to it because the manufacturer goes out of business or loses a distribution license, or they just don't like you for some reason, or they make a mistake for some reason, or they send a bad update, whatever, or, you know, there are all these different ways that you can lose access to something. But if you can lose the functionality of something through any means other than that something literally like physically wearing out because it's just been in service so long that it naturally can't keep going, then you just don't own it. You're screwed. That's it. I don't know what else to say about this. And I really want to reiterate that you should try this challenge for yourself. Cut yourself off from the internet, put everything in airplane mode, and see how screwed you are. What can't you do? Now you know who owns you and who owns your life. So when these people complain about the PlayStation ditching physical discs, I don't know. I just don't feel all that sympathetic. You know why I haven't bought a PlayStation in years? The last one I bought was a PS2. Because guess what you can do with a PS2? You can plug it in, turn it on, even if it's new old stock in a box, and set a few things up on it, stick a disc in, and play the game. No internet connection ever required. After that, not so sure. PlayStation 3 is the era when everything could pretty much assume almost everyone using it had a broadband connection that was always on. So because of that access, suddenly, you know, if it, either through engineer laziness or through a perverse secret desire to be able to maximize revenue through inappropriate side channels, these manufacturers are able to keep these things to where they have to be internet connected for most functionality, or they can even just cut you off. If you say the wrong word in a lobby, they can cut off your entire account and thus access to all of your games. I mean, no, I'm not okay with that. And it's not good enough to be like, I want to be able to fix my stuff, or I want to be able to play my stuff offline. You also have to be able to have the sovereignty that other people can't take it away from you later. Be it through sending something over the internet that kill switches it, whatever. If someone can take it away from you, that's only one step better than someone literally just like renting it out to you through ephemeral streaming, where they don't have to take it away from you, they just have to not give it to you again. So I may be talking in circles. I'm not 100% sure at this point. Oh crap, my drink went up my nose. That was great. The moon in the sky is fighting the moon on my shirt. You know, it's crazy out here. But anyway, I don't know what else there is to say about this physical, the physical disc thing extended to the whole ownership thing. And I know I'm beating a dead horse with this entire discussion at this point. It's not like I haven't gone over most of these points in the past. But maybe sometimes you just need to hear it again. Sometimes you just need to hear some Wolverine-looking son of a bitch who is driving unsafely. I'm sure some jackass is going to leave some comment about how I'm driving unsafely because I'll release some video at some point saying something political they disagree with, and they go to my back catalog to find something to attack. But yeah, it's here we are. Let's call this the end of another marginally successful Rollin' Ramble. If you like this format and you watched this far, let me know that you want me to keep doing it, because now that I've got the mount up and I've got the gear in place, I don't see any reason that I couldn't just keep doing it. I'm happy to do it if you guys are happy to listen to it. Get them views up, boys. Thanks very much for watching. Have a wonderful whatever it is where you are. And I hope this has been enlightening. Take it easy.